the supplies of Western tanks must outpace another invasion of Russian tanks.
Russia didn't expect to lose this fight. Not because it was small, not because it was quiet, but because on paper it shouldn't have happened at all. Footage and reporting from the Pokrovsk Kurakhove sector show Russian armored elements attempting to push forward in Donetsk. Tanks, infantry vehicles, enough mass to pressure local Ukrainian defenses and keep momentum building westward. And then that movement stopped. Not after hours of fighting, not after a counterattack, but after contact with a very small Ukrainian armored element reported in multiple clips and accounts as Leopard 2 variants, including Leopard 2A4s. This wasn't a headline battle. It wasn't a breakthrough. It wasn't even a major offensive, but it exposed something far more dangerous for Moscow. Because on today's battlefield, numbers don't matter if you lose the first 90 seconds. And that is what appears to have happened here. What you're about to see is not a story about wonder tanks or miracle weapons. It is a story about how modern armored warfare actually works when drones, terrain, and timing align, and why Russian forces keep paying the price for moving the way they always have. In the next 18 minutes, I'm going to walk through that kill chain step by step, and why the opening moments now decide everything. The area around Kurakhove and Pokrovsk isn't symbolic, it's practical. It is a logistics corridor, a rotation zone, a pressure point Russia has been leaning on for months. Russian units operating along this axis were not attempting anything exotic. They were applying familiar doctrine: advance with armor, secure roads, apply steady pressure, force the defender to react. But there is a problem with that approach in 2024 and 2025. Modern battlefields do not forgive predictability, and this movement was predictable. The Russian vehicles were moving through constrained terrain, roads bordered by tree lines, villages, and broken cover. Exactly the kind of environment where movement funnels, visibility collapses, and ambush geometry favors the defender. This was not a failure of courage or equipment alone. It was a failure of tempo and awareness. Ukrainian drones were already in the air. That matters more than most people realize, because once a column is spotted, it stops being a maneuver force. It becomes a sequence of targets. And once the first vehicle is hit, everything behind it becomes trapped. Footage from the sector shows a Leopard 2 firing from a concealed position, using buildings, terrain, and distance to its advantage. This was not a reckless charge. It was a classic ambush. The tank engages deliberately. The first rounds land accurately. Vehicles at the front and rear of the formation are struck, and suddenly the entire movement collapses into confusion. Not because the Leopard is invincible, but because modern fire control, thermal sights, and first-round accuracy matter more than mass once surprise is gone. At that moment, the Russian formation is no longer fighting forward. It is trying to survive. This is where precision matters. This was not necessarily two tanks versus a brigade in a cinematic sense. In different clips and engagements, it may be one Leopard, or a pair operating together, with artillery or drones joining after initial contact. But the lesson is consistent. A small, well-positioned armored element, supported by drones, can halt a much larger force if it controls the opening moments of the fight. The tank does not need to destroy everything. It only needs to stop momentum. Once momentum is gone, everything else takes over. Drones, follow-on strikes, artillery, suppression. After the initial hits, drones dominate the fight. Footage from similar engagements shows quadcopters targeting disabled vehicles and dismounted infantry, not as a substitute for the tank, but as an extension of it. This is modern combined arms in miniature. The tank delivers shock. The drone provides vision and persistence. The formation breaks apart. At that point, the advance is finished, even if not every vehicle is destroyed. And this is the part Russia continues to underestimate. You do not need to annihilate a force to stop it. You only need to break its timing. This was not a strategic defeat for Russia, but it was an operational warning, because the Kurakhove-Pokrovsk sector is not unique. The terrain is not unique. The tactics are not unique. This pattern is repeating across the front. Russian columns moving along predictable routes, Ukrainian drones watching constantly. Western supplied tanks used not as blunt instruments, but as precision ambush platforms. And every time this happens, Russia loses something it cannot easily replace: tempo. The Leopard 2A4 was not designed for this war. It was built for Cold War Europe. Wide plains, armored breakthroughs, a clash with Soviet tank armies that never came. And yet, in eastern Ukraine, it keeps doing something Russia did not expect. It stops advances, not by charging forward, not by dueling tank formations, but by sitting still, seeing first, and firing first. That is what makes it dangerous. In modern armored combat, the most important advantage is not armor thickness or gun caliber. It is detection. Who sees who first? The Leopard 2A4 excels here in ways that matter disproportionately in ambush scenarios. Its thermal sights allow crews to detect vehicles, engine heat, and movement through smoke, darkness, foliage gaps, and bad weather. Russian vehicles moving along roads or village edges often appear clearly long before they realize they are being watched. And in an ambush, the fight is often decided before the first round is fired. Once a Leopard crew identifies the lead vehicle, everything else becomes predictable. Columns move forward. They do not maneuver well under fire. And once the first vehicle is hit, the rest are trapped. The Leopard 2A4's fire control system is not flashy by modern standards, but it is reliable. In an ambush, crews do not get many shots before drones, artillery, or counterfire respond. Sometimes they get seconds. The Leopard's stabilized gun and ballistic computer allow accurate first-round hits, even from partial cover. That means the crew does not need to trade blows. They need one decisive hit. Hit the lead vehicle. Hit the trail vehicle. Stop the movement. Once movement stops, the engagement is already won. In several engagements near Pokrovsk and Kurakhove, Russian vehicles featured improvised anti-drone structures, often described as cope cages and sometimes nicknamed turtle tanks online. These add-ons are intended to reduce vulnerability to top-attack drones. However, analysts have noted that they can also reduce visibility, limit turret movement, and slow reaction time, even when they provide limited protection in some cases. In ambush conditions, those trade-offs are lethal. When a Leopard fires from concealment, crews often do not know where the shot came from. Thermal confusion, visual obstruction, and delayed response create just enough time for follow-up fires or drone strikes to take effect. Attempts to solve one problem can create another. The Leopard 2A4 is not being used as a brawler. Ukrainian crews are not charging Russian armor head-on in open terrain. They are choosing constrained roads, village edges, tree lines, and hull-down positions. They fire, they relocate, they disappear. This shoot-and-scoot approach, adapted for a drone-saturated battlefield, keeps the tank alive. The Leopard does not stay to dominate an area. It stays long enough to break momentum, then leaves before Russian artillery or loitering munitions can respond. Russia often commits armor, expecting mass to overwhelm defenders. In ambush conditions, that logic fails. Once the lead vehicle is destroyed, the rest of the column cannot bring its numbers to bear. They cannot maneuver off-road, they cannot see clearly, they cannot coordinate under sudden fire. At that point, having more vehicles behind you does not help. It makes you more vulnerable. The Leopard does not need to destroy 10 vehicles. It only needs to destroy the right one. The Leopard 2A4 is not invulnerable. Several have been lost in Ukraine. What makes it effective here is not perfection. It is suitability. It fits a battlefield where drones provide constant reconnaissance, engagements are short and violent, and survival depends on positioning rather than aggression. Russia is not failing because it lacks tanks. It has a large inventory and can still field armor at scale. The problem is how that armor moves. Too often it advances as if reconnaissance is incomplete. Ambushes are rare, and surprise still belongs to the attacker. In Ukraine, surprise belongs to whoever controls the airspace a few hundred meters above the ground. Right now, that is usually Ukrainian drones. The Leopard does not defeat columns alone. It works as part of a system where drones are the eyes and artillery is the follow-through. That system does not need many tanks. It needs the right ones, in the right place, at the right moment. At this point, the real question is not why Leopards are effective. It is why Russian armor keeps giving them the opportunity. Ambushes like those near Kurakhove and Pokrovsk do not happen by accident. They happen when failures stack quietly and repeatedly. By the time the first vehicle is hit, the outcome is already leaning one way. Here is the trap. Modern armored warfare depends on live information. Russian units often advance with reconnaissance that is outdated, fragmented, or absent at the tactical level. Drones exist, but they are not always fused directly into armored maneuver the way Ukrainian forces increasingly do. Columns move because nothing has been detected recently, not because the route has been actively secured. Ukrainian forces do not need perfect coverage. They need timing. A single drone watching a road for minutes is enough to spot movement, count vehicles, and feed firing solutions. The ambush begins with observation, not the first shot. Many Russian advances rely on familiar routes. Roads are reused, corridors repeat. Terrain constraints explain some of this, but predictability becomes lethal when counter-reconnaissance fails. Once a route is identified, Ukrainian units wait. Waiting favors the defender. Columns simplify command and concentrate force. They also create a single point of failure. When the lead vehicle is destroyed, everything behind it inherits the problem instantly. Movement stops. Spacing collapses. Confusion spreads faster than orders. This is where precision beats mass. Once contact is made, Russian units face a brutal set of options. Advance into unknown fire, reverse under observation, dismount into open terrain, call for artillery while exposed. None are good. Hesitation multiplies losses. Ukrainian Leopard crews exploit that hesitation. They apply pressure just long enough for drones and artillery to take over. When advances fail, the instinct is to add mass. But mass without information magnifies mistakes. More heat signatures. More targets, more chaos once contact begins. The ambush does not become harder. It becomes more profitable. Ukraine has adapted quickly because it had to. Survival depends on fusing drones, tanks, infantry, and artillery into a single kill chain. Russian doctrine often still treats these elements in parallel. When information, movement, and firepower are not synchronized, the system breaks, and ambushes thrive. Kurakhove and Pokrovsk matter. They are logistics nodes and gateways to deeper movement. Ukrainian forces do not need to hold every meter. They need to deny momentum. Stopping an advance for a day reshapes the timeline. Timelines decide campaigns. What is happening here is not an anomaly. It is a preview, because this war has made one thing brutally clear. Armor is not disappearing, but the rules it used to live by are. The idea that tanks are finished is lazy. What is finished is the old fantasy of armor rolling forward, leading from the front, forcing breakthroughs by momentum alone. That model was built for a battlefield where you could hide movement, where reconnaissance was intermittent, and where the defender often learned what was happening too late. In a drone-saturated environment, that delay is gone. The battlefield is awake all the time, so the age of tanks advancing as spearheads is getting harder to sustain, not because the tank is weak, but because the approach corridor is no longer invisible. Even before the first shot, the tank's problem is that it is already being watched. What replaces it is selective use. Tanks become intervention tools, not marching tools. They become the sudden hammer, not the slow spear. A tank's value shifts toward three things: seeing first, shooting first, leaving before the return fire arrives. That is the new contract. People argue about armor thickness and penetration values, but in Ukraine, the platform is only as deadly as the chain it sits inside. Detection, identification, decision, engagement, assessment. Repeat. The side that compresses this chain wins local fights, even when it has fewer tanks, fewer shells, and fewer vehicles on paper. Because if you are late in the chain, you are not outgunned. You are already behind the moment where survival was decided. The Leopard fits this environment because it sits exactly where information turns into action. When the drone finds the route, the tank becomes the fast, accurate trigger that converts that sighting into immediate consequences. Not eventually, not after a meeting, not after a long artillery prep, immediately. And once that first vehicle burns or blocks the road, the kill chain changes shape. What was an advancing formation becomes a trapped sequence. What was a maneuver becomes a rescue attempt. What was pressure becomes delay. Russia fields armor at scale, but scale does not matter if it arrives blind. Many formations still treat tanks as the system rather than a component, which means they expect the tank to create the solution through mass and forward motion. Ukraine has inverted that logic. Information first, movement second, firepower last. That inversion is not theory, it is survival. It means tanks appear only when the conditions are already favorable. It means armor is used to break timing, not to win territory in a straight line. It means the battlefield is shaped before the first round is fired, not after. And that is why some Russian pushes collapse in minutes. Not because the crews are weak, but because the process they are moving inside is slower than the one waiting for them. Western tanks are not magical. They can be destroyed. They have been destroyed. What they are optimized for is first shot effectiveness, and that matters more now than it did in older wars, because the window to shoot is smaller and the punishment for missing is higher. In a fight where exposure time is measured in moments, the difference between a clean first round hit and a hurried second attempt is not efficiency, it is life or death. And Western design tends to reward exactly what ambush warfare needs. Better optics, better fire control, better stabilization, better crew ergonomics that reduce mistakes when the adrenaline hits. In this environment, the tank that lands the first accurate hit and relocates is the tank that survives. There is another layer that does not show up on maps. Fear. Not fear as emotion. Fear as physics. Fear changes spacing. Fear changes speed. Fear changes initiative. When crews expect ambushes, they do not drive the same way. Columns hesitate. Movement compresses. Radio traffic spikes. Everyone waits for someone else to confirm what is happening. And when momentum dies quietly, the entire operation bleeds time. Wars are often lost not in one dramatic collapse, but in repeated failure to arrive on schedule, failure to keep pressure, failure to convert movement into results. This is how pressure strategies die. Not from one huge defeat, from 100 small pauses that add up into exhaustion. When you hear 2 Leopards stopped a Russian advance, do not picture heroics. Picture preparation, a drone hovering, a crew waiting with the engine low, a route already mapped, a kill zone already chosen, a withdrawal route already planned. By the time the first shot is fired, the decision has already been made. That is modern warfare, and it is why in Ukraine, the side that sees first does not just shoot first. It decides when the fight even happens. Right now, that advantage keeps turning small moments into operational pauses Russia cannot afford. Because Russia is not only losing vehicles in these encounters, it is losing the one thing an offensive needs more than armor: rhythm.